Hey guys, make sure to subscribe and turn notifications on for more Team Wars content.
I guess hello, I am joined with MetalOverdrive. He did play in his war versus Stellar Trace last week. While he did not have the greatest start, he brought some fun decks, and his team still ended up winning with a big comeback with Harpies. So how are you doing today, Metal?
Well, I'm doing pretty fine. Thank you for asking. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Right now I'm looking at Smash 4, so I see you brought Christians and Harpies. How do you feel about that? That's an interesting deck to see.
So, I've been thinking, and for a while, we didn't actually have a proper Harpy counter ever since Onoma died. As decks we have right now are pretty bad.
Yeah.
Let's not beat around the bush. Like, when the Harpy is the best deck, that just means Duel Links has gone down bad.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, Harpies right now rely a lot on targeting stuff. So if you manage to just put out Madragon with either C3 or Hope Woven, you just FTK them. And that's exactly what happened. It was, to be fair, my opponent didn't open too well, so I just kinda sacked him.
Alright.
And then I faced Melodius, and I thought, well, that's definitely a bad matchup, but I should be able to win. And then I loaded into the game and I saw I have 2 Smigers in hand and 2 Keystone Traps, and I was like,
Oh, classic.
but yeah, I thought Harpies in the back would be enough to stop Melodius. But I went first with 3 set cards, two of them which were live and one was dead.
Oh, wow.
And my opponent opened 2 MSTs and hit both live cards. So needless to say, I was kind of upset that happened, but I sucked, I got sucked. It's all good.
Yeah. I mean, the Christians did their job, which I mean, everyone loves. I love Christian. We wrote the guide together. Christians is always an exciting deck to play, for sure. But yeah, I mean, it did its job of beating the Harpies.
Mm-hmm. And this week we actually, or rather, that week we actually had streamer, so people could actually see it being played as a kind of a moment to catch your breath from all these boring matchups.
Yeah. You know, it's kind of funny. The same thing happened to their Christian player. They came in to counter Harpies, and then they lost to Melodius with their Christian, and their next deck was Harpies, which also lost to Melodius, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, I was curious if more people came up with similar strategy, but it seemed that only a few teams thought it would be a pretty good pairing.
Yeah, well, we gotta see Christian twice in this war, which is pretty exciting. Yeah, this war did not get off to a good start for you guys. When you guys started off 1-5, how were you feeling at that point?
Honestly, it was kind of shaky because our starter, Charity, he opened literally 5 monsters in Melodius deck that plays like 7 monsters. So
wow.
It was like a rough start, and then it started to look good when I got on the table, but then we also started having terrible hands. And Serenity kind of turned it around. Except his last Melodius game, where he... So, I'm not gonna say that he misplayed, but there was another play that he could have made that would have potentially turned the game around.
Alright.
But we didn't see it at that moment.
Until it was too late. Alright.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then Vince just came. I mean, Bellafiore came in, and he was like, man, I've been playing Harpies in MCS, in Meta Week. I'm just gonna play Harpies and let's see what happens. And then he just won 5 in a row.
Yeah, or you guys were losing 5-8. Especially once you're down to your last player, it just gets a lot more hopeless because then you don't have any more opportunities to counterplay. You just have to hope that your decks can sack. But it did work out for Bellafiore, obviously.
I would lie if I didn't say we weren't kind of nervous, because when you're 5-8, every misplay can lead into just the war being over, because I'm gonna say that his second deck was Gaia, And Gaia is only really good against their last player that played Yosenju. Because
Yeah.
against Harpies, Blue Eyes, Melodious, I mean, it can win, but
Yeah, and even then, if you did end up having to bring out the Gaia, the Yosenju might not have repeated, and they could have had a second deck that was better versus Gaia as well, which would have been scary.
yeah, so it was pretty much, if we lost on Harpies, our match was over.
Yeah.
Especially after the first win, since we lost the ability to repeat, obviously. Yeah.
I think it's really the scariest. Once you're down to your last deck, your last two decks, once you're down to your last player, really, then everything becomes so much riskier. Like you said, you can't really afford anything because you have no more. You're just forced into those last two decks. You have no more options other than that. You just have to hope that the matchups work out for you.
Yeah, and it's a much different feel than like if you see somebody win 5 in a row and start, it's like whatever.
Yeah.
But when you have to win 5 in a row to win, now that becomes from simple walking into park to a fucking mountain climbing.
Yeah, exactly. The pressure is on, and it's just really tough. But Belly Fury clutched it out for you guys. Luckily, now you guys are up 6-3 right now in the season, right?
Yep.
We can move on. We can look on to the standings, which I have right here. Yeah, you guys are third in your division, which is unfortunate because you guys just have a really strong division. At least a strong top 3 with Pharaohs, Defusion, and Phoenix. But you guys are still doing strong. You guys came back from those 2 losses earlier in the season, back to back. Once you had those 2 losses and you guys were down, once your record was 4-3, how'd you guys turn that around?
So we actually spent quite some time analyzing our wars. Like, it's easy to say, oh, we got God-handed, we lost, blah, blah. But we made a few crucial misplays that lost us a game or 2. And as we already said, one game can just turn the tide of the war.
Mm-hmm.
So if we played perfectly, there is no guarantee we would have won, obviously.
But you would have had a better chance.
We would have had we would have the fighting chance. So after reviewing our games and doing some internal testing and both screaming as well, we kinda came up with, well, not a groundbreaking strategy, but just ironing out some kinks in our gameplay.
I see.
So, and it worked out.
Yeah, I mean,
Though,
go ahead, sorry.
It's early to say that it worked out because if my math is correct, we need to win this week as well to be in playoffs, so we're not out of the danger zone yet.
Yeah, we can look at the wildcard stands actually. You guys are 7th place in the wildcard, so it is pretty important for you guys to win here. Usually when a 6-4 team wins, they have to have like a really good RD, and your RD is, I mean, your RD isn't bad, but it isn't like, it might not be better than a lot of the other 6-4 teams. As we can see, the only team that's really, like, there are so many 6-3 teams, it's hard to even see what's going to happen next week. It just all comes down to the wars.
Yeah, so that's why some other teammates made their own calculations, and they were like, oh, even if we lose like 9-10, we can still make it. But considering how many teams are pretty much in the same boat as us,
yeah,
I think it's gonna be hard for pretty much everyone, especially in this meta where, to be honest, it's not very skill-intense meta because all the decks just lose to simple interruptions. So it's like, you go first with interrupt, you win. Or you go second with same amount of MSTs, oh, then you win. So it's kind of, we're all flipping some coins. But hopefully that changes soon because according to leaks, we're going to be getting some pretty strong additions to Duel Links. So hopefully that makes playoffs more interesting, even if we don't make it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely spicing up playoffs will definitely be exciting if we get some nice, powerful cards. Because right now, my only problem with the meta is like they don't even introduce new decks. They just kind of like make old decks better most of the time. I mean, I'm kind of excited for some new decks. Maybe that's what I'm looking forward to.
Honestly, if predictions are true and we get some Necros support, that's actually going to be hyper exciting because not only is a ritual deck that we pretty much never see, like we saw 1 or 2 Vandreds or few
Cyber Angels!
Yeah. But this actually kind of big brain tech where you get really rewarded if you manage your resources properly. Like I was watching up
Okay, go ahead.
guides in TCG for Necros combos, and those videos go up for an hour.
Yeah,
or
Necros is
something like-
really skill intensive. It's crazy. Gotta get Stevie on. Stevie won a YCS with Necros. It's his time to shine. But yeah.
Oh yeah, he's gonna. Stevie. He almost joined us, fun enough, but
Uh,
he ended up playing with his friends on FM, which I can't hold against him.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense with Necros. I haven't really paid attention to much of leaks, but after seeing that ban list, nobody really used that card, right? So.
Yeah, and that card is only good if you have good Necros cards, so you
Yeah.
can use it as a battle fader that you can recycle.
Exactly. So one would assume they're bringing in Necros cards, otherwise they wouldn't ban that shit for no reason.
True.
Yeah. I'm looking at this playoff fixture right now, and like, yeah, all the RD is pretty close. Like, the highest 6-3 team has 18 RD. Your RD is 11. Sensei's kind of bottom RD with 6, but it's all still really close, and it just depends on like if you lose, it just depends on how well other teams win and how well you lose, which is kind of iffy. But all you gotta do is you gotta just play your best game. Obviously, so it's obviously the best way
we
to
can
go.
be relying on others to misplay or not get enough points or stuff. Like, if you play like that, you're playing the wrong game.
I think it's interesting with the new wildcard format because last season it was the top 2 teams from each division and then only 4 wildcard teams. But now we've upped the format, so it's only the top team from each division and 8 wildcard teams, which is kind of interesting.
I think that's actually better the way it is now because the way it's set up, more teams have incentive to actually play and try hard because not everything is over. But
Yeah,
in previous formats, top 2 teams just cement themselves, and then all the quote-unquote lower teams than them just don't have a reason to play,
yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
So
And
I'm actually happy to see how many underdogs are in playoffs this time.
yeah, and another thing about this is it kind of adds more balance to it, so that way it's not like if there's a weaker division, you don't get lucky by being like 6-4 in your division, but still managing to be second place, so you can skip wild card stress, you know. So really, just like make sure the top 12 teams in the league are gonna be going to playoffs.
Oh yeah, that's also the good point because it's like one team per division, right? That used to be second place guaranteed. Now
Yeah.
they also have to try hard. So like no slacking other than for the first runners.
Yeah, exactly. The only first place team that can really slack right now, I think, is Pharaohs, just because they have a 2-game lead over you and Diffusion. But all the other first place teams, I think, still have to fight. They can't just slack off because if they want to clinch their division, they still have to play. You know.
Yeah, and especially since season is so sucky that we've seen multiple 10-1s, 10-2s, which can really shake up the positions on the ladder. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, you never know what's gonna happen. Like, we've seen some upsets, like we saw Chicks with Dex the other week beating Diffusion, which was a huge upset that no one was ready for, and now Diffusion is in a significantly worse position than they would have been.
I actually wonder who got scammed there the most, because I've seen people put like all of their gems on Diffusion in that war.
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember seeing people talk about it. The percentages, we can find that real quick. Let me look for that.
Yeah, that would be amusing to see.
As we can see right now, I'm looking on the screen, we have the Tilted Tri Division, which is really interesting because the first place team is only 6-3, so they could end up potentially out of playoffs if they play really poorly and all the other teams excel this week. You know, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Just the amount of stress the simple Twitch feature added to the matches. So honestly, I wasn't there at the start, so I missed the bet, so I can say it's hilarious to me, but I believe a lot more people than just Diffusion got upset that day.
Yeah. So I'm looking at it right now. 90% of people bet on Defusion. So the people who bet on Chicks with Decks really cashed out big in that war, for sure.
Imagine just putting like 100 gems for shits and giggles,
Yeah.
and then winning like $500,000.
Yeah.
Damn.
It's like, yeah, people who I remember that happened once last season during playoffs or the last week. It was like one or two dudes that bet on a team and then they ended up winning big, and they got a Twitch sub out of it with how many gems they won. Kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's honestly really cool, having a tangible benefit for loyalty.
Yeah.
Like, it's nice to unlock emotes and all that, but actually getting a sub that actually does something because there is a fantasy league.
Yeah, I think it really encourages people to, really get into the duels, which just adds a lot more pressure on the players. It just makes it even more exciting to watch when you have stuff on the line,
Yeah, I can imagine, like, you lose and then somebody messages you on Discord, bro, I bet all my savings on you and you win 0.
Yeah. Imagine. Or like even in Fantasy League when you put some players on the roster and they just end up going 0-2 and you lose a point from your fantasy team for that. It's tough.
And you also have to predict who's even gonna play. Like,
yeah.
It's simple for some teams because they always play some of the same people, but then like, I can imagine how bad it must feel for somebody that has entire fantasy league on the bench. That's like,
Yeah. Like, that's one of the hardest parts of Like, I don't even play I just watch it, but I think one of the hardest parts for me is just, like, trying to figure out who's gonna play. Like, sure, there's some people that play every week, but then, like, sometimes there's just not. Or you don't know. Sometimes the player is just taking the week off, And all of a sudden, the whole slot gone.
I wonder how many of people that actually actively participate in Fantasy League go around and ask people, hey, are you gonna be playing this week?
You probably
Why
do.
you wanna scout my decks? And I just wanna put you in my league.
It's funny. Rex Cruz from your team put themselves on their fantasy team, and they didn't even end up playing.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. Like, he was 100% sure, I'm gonna do it this week. But you can also say it's a big brain play because some people can. I'm not quite sure how it works, but is it public who you vote for?
It's not public unless you want to make it public. So.
Oh yeah, that can be big brain play. Like, put yourself on so people expect you and then just don't play.
Yeah. Yeah. The playoff picture is looking exciting. The only team that's not 6-3 is Uchichas, which is 7-2, which is really unfortunate for them. Being 7-2, but not even first in your division is tough. But Uchichas has a guaranteed in. Even if they lose, they should definitely still be in at 6-3. At 6-4. They'll be 7-3 next if they lose. So yeah. But all the other teams are gonna be fighting. You guys are against BZ next week. How do you feel about that?
Every time we faced BZ in Team Wars, it was a bloody war, so I expect it's gonna be like this this time as well.
You guys have some history with BZ for sure. A whole lot of wars. BZ started off the season 1-2, and now they're on a 6-game win streak, so they're hot. It's gonna be a fun match to watch for sure.
I think it's actually really important because unless specific conditions are met, it's whoever wins here that moves on.
Yeah. Like, you don't want to be, if you lose, you don't, like, obviously you don't want to leave it down to specific conditions or whatever and hope that it works for the best. So yeah, whoever wins here is just for sure in a huge advantage.
Yeah, that also has both advantage and disadvantage, because advantage is if you win, you're in, and that's cool and all. But if you don't win, you have to sit down and bite your nails waiting to see what others do. So it's like, there is a hope, which is good, but also that hope is gonna make you have a really stressful weekend overall.
Yeah, like, especially since you guys play on Saturday, if you guys end up losing, and like there are a lot of Sunday games, so you guys have to be waiting a while to get the results of your playoff picture. So Yeah, it'll definitely be a fun. It's definitely gonna be a hectic week, especially tomorrow. I mean, on Sunday we have like 8 games on Sunday morning, so many playoffs are gonna be decided within the span of just an hour or so. Once as those games are ending, which is gonna be really hectic.
I definitely don't envy the ref team for this Sunday.
Yeah, we got our work cut out for us, but it'll definitely be fun to see how it all ends up. Yeah, other than that, thanks for coming out with me, Metal. You got any final words you want to say? Any shout outs?
Oh, thank you for having me over. And as for shoutouts, I have to shout out my boy Serenity that just won MCS
Oh,
with
yeah.
his new 13-year-old girl deck.
This is
And of course, it's perfect deck for him.
yeah, because he's
also a
13.
13-year-old girl.
Yes. Yeah.
And obviously, I want to shout out the rest of my homies at Phoenix because they did put in quite some effort. And I hope I won't fail them as far as this season goes. But yeah,
All right.
that would be all.
Of course, thank you for having us, and thank you guys for staying tuned. Make sure to pay attention to Team Wars this next coming up week. As I said, huge wars are coming up. It's definitely gonna be exciting to see how things pan out.
Hello everyone and welcome to the My Turn part, the Sensei one from the Timor Talks. As usual, we have a lot to discuss with Timor Talks, and that includes the match report, the meta-analysis, and just a bit more about what went through with Sensei's games and their players, and the wildcard, obviously, because it was a big deal this last week, especially for Sensei, having had them facing Genkai Code. So, my turn. Say hello.
Hello, I'm Maintan from Team Sensei. Nice to meet you.
And I'm very excited to have you here to discuss with us the Genkai Code match report as well as some more stuff to follow. So let's get right into it and let's start with the match report. So right off the bat, you can see for the very first few duels, not a whole lot of popular decks being used. From your side, we have the TGs, and from Genkai Code side, we have a couple more off-meta rogue decks like Magnets, Witchcrafter, and Dark Lords. So I want you to tell me first about your own choice of the double starter of TG. Just a little more, if you can enlighten us on how did it work so well for you.
In our practicing, Nanao's TG was very strong from Harpies and also other decks like Melodious. So we think Genkai Code is very good at Harpies and Melodious. So we prepared TG versus Harpies and Melodious, and it worked very well. But indeed, didn't expected the Simon's deck or Magnet and the Witchcrafter was really shocking for us.
Yeah, I can see that because it's not every day that a team decides to maybe also have that mindset, right? Where they probably saw you starting with a certain deck and they wanted to get a deck that has a pretty good win rate, perhaps Magnets in this case for Genkai Code. And in this case, well, for them it didn't go well, but even then their first counter pick was Dark Lord. So it could maybe say a little about their lineup for this particular week, because there's not a whole lot of other decks that can be seen. Well, they also use 2 repeats, so we cannot even see all of their 10 decks, but repeated Dark Lords, later on repeated Gaia. But even then, for you, a lot of Thunder Dragons in the lineup that did end up getting most of your wins. So it's a pretty good match. I watched it as well, and it was obviously very important for you because it meant pretty much for you guys, if you won, you had a spot in the playoffs. And Genkai Code, well, considering they lost 10-8, so with quite a bit of RD, they still are in the playoffs. And with that, Dark Lord, I don't know. I heard Sun did a video on Dark Lords. Have you heard about it?
Yeah, I didn't know before we started, but in our play, our team of the Japanese member showed that video, and we we saw very quickly, and we got that. Wow, that is Dark Road. We didn't expect it actually.
Yeah, it's a little a little strange perhaps, but
Yeah.
Sun, doing a video on it, and well, you also have the Japanese players obviously that help you with that Nanao, obviously very good, and them just giving you that that heads up that Sun did this video on Dark Lord, and well, here's perhaps a pretty good deck list that Sun is using that could be using as well for Team Wars. Perhaps not the best move for Gameplay, but ultimately, well, it was a very, very tight match, and obviously a joy to watch. And thankfully for you, it ended in your win, which granted you the spot to the playoffs. And well, with that, we can now move on to the meta-analysis. This, unlike the past previous weeks for the viewers, we are only taking week 10 into account because the cumulative meta analysis got a little too high in numbers. And we would like to discuss only for this week in particular. And for this week in particular, we have a couple new decks that ended up making a pretty good appearance. For example, the D Hero deck being now the third most played deck. Well, tied with Gaia and Thunder Dragon for this week. As well as DDDs making another appearance into the meta, knocking down Blue Eyes and Lunalight in their spots. So, my turn. I would like you to tell me just a little about Destiny Hero and what you think about it, and what do you think its place in the meta right now?
I think it has high potential in this meta because it can first Mystic Cyclone, so it can counter Gaia and some of deck that can use very important Magic Word spell or trap. You can counter it, and also it is very good at in your one turn, and then you can attack with your mask change, and very good, very strong in one turn.
Yeah, it does have a pretty good way, as you said, with countering decks such as Gaia, maybe such as DDD, that have that over reliance on some spells or traps. And as you said, also having this deck have such a good OTK potential with the little D heroes, with the Dreadmaster, or with the mask change fusion monsters. Well, it's gonna be pretty hard for decks to counter that, I feel like. So do you think a deck like Melodious perhaps has what it takes to stop D heroes?
Melodious, yeah, it's quite good because if Melodious summon Bloom Diva, blue, then D hero is very hard to attack Bloom Diva. Only Forbidden Chalice, yeah, is only way, or enemy controller. It's one of the way to kill Melodious.
Right. Yeah, and with the format being Team Wars and not a whole lot of side cards being thought about to be included to have an easier time against Melodious, well, Destiny Hero is in that perhaps weird position where it can do some damage against Gaia, especially. Not so sure about the Harpies matchup, but I think it's a still pretty good deck. about the Harpy matchup, what do you think? On the graphic, it's 8 to 9.
It depends on coin toss, which is first or which is back. It's very important.
Right. So if you perhaps go second, is it better for you if you are the D hero person?
It's better. It's half and half, I think, but it depends on which pair or trap you have.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Because the hero can have many kinds of pair or trap. That is very free. They bring it very freely.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And that's for the D
There are
hero.
many kinds of pair trap they use. Some people use enemy controller, some people use lightning vortex, and some people use karma cut, and some people use stretches trevor. That is very strong spell and trap.
Yeah, not just the spells or traps being powerful, but also is the element of surprise. Maybe. Let's say you have let's say you have two Destiny heroes in your lineup, and one of them has, enemy controller Chalice, and the other has Karma Cut and, I don't know, Lightning Vortex. So here the two decks are built differently, and maybe the team that is facing you is expecting the second deck to be, also with Chalice and enemy controller, but it's going to be with Karma Cut and Lightning Vortex. So in a way, it is reminiscent of Gaia, because Gaia can run all those spells or traps, and it's a little hard to play around everything. And with that, about DDDs, maybe just as a closing point, what do you think DDD's place in the meta is right now?
DDD has high potential, but I think their recipe is not built yet. I think they need some more. They need more support. I think skill is quite good, but not powerful. I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of, there's a couple ways to build this deck, but ultimately I haven't seen much success of it either. As we can see from this particular week, it has negative matchup against the best two decks, and only managed to get its wins from rogue decks, pretty much.
Yeah.
And well, that's not the best indication of it being that good in particular for week 10, but I don't know. We'll see how it performs in the playoffs.
I saw a match of the Forbidden Memories, and there was one player was very good at DDD, so that is because DDD has high win rate.
Yeah, I watched the match as well. It was Soup8, shout out to him, that managed to get, I believe, 6-2 using a pair of double DDD, one Pendulum, one rank 6 Orient, the regular one.
It was insane.
Yeah, he got all his wins with the Pendulum version, which is crazy. Yeah. Not a single win with the regular one. And yeah, well, that's for the DDDs. Ultimately, it's a weird place for them right now. Last week, on week 9, we have seen a couple more success for them, but ultimately with Harpies, at times you can see the main deck MST just for matchups like DDD, like D Hero, putting in a lot of work, and Harpy's Hunting Ground, not being enough these days. MST can be the deal breaker here.
Yeah.
And with that, we can move on to just a position that Sensei was put in before this match. So Sensei was 6-3, and Genkai Code was also 6-3. Sensei had I believe 6 RD, which was a little too low for the 6 and 3
Yeah, it was
teams.
dangerous. It was dangerous. If we lost that, we couldn't go to playoff.
Yeah,
So we
exactly.
did our best and practiced a lot.
Yeah, hard work pays off, and it certainly had to pay off in this match against the strongest opponent, nonetheless, from this group, Genkai Code. And well, fortunately for them, even a close loss meant playoffs due to the very high RD that they had. But you had to absolutely win this match, and well, you did manage to do it, and also with a little bonus of placing above Uchiha's, which you will be facing pretty soon. But before we get to that, wildcard standings, I'm just trying to see, like, if you take a look from the 8th spot until the 12th, there is only one RD difference from every team there. So it was a very close race this season.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, BR Meta, they faced Uchihas for their last opponent, which also was not just a domestic match, because both of the teams are Brazilian, but also it meant BR Meta, if they won with, they won 10 and 7. If they won 10 and 8, they still would have been in, but 10 to 9, even a win granted Phoenix the playoffs here. Inti Sun as well, they were 6 and 3 with 15 RD, and well, they managed to lose to Diffusion 10 to 3, which just knocked them out of the playoffs, which was pretty sad to see.
Yeah.
As well as YGL, well, they were 5 and 4 with 0 RD. They had to face SGL. If they didn't 10 and 0, they wouldn't have been possible for YGL to be in the playoffs. And Sun Clan also could have been in the playoffs if they won 10 to 3, but it was against Pharaohs, which is top 2 right now in the league. So I just wanted to highlight just how close the race was towards the bottom part of this wildcard standings. And well, if you are in the top 8 of the wildcard standings, hard and long fought battle, but at least you secured a spot in the playoffs. And with that, a couple of the success can be attributed to My Turn, because he was number 10 in the power rankings, almost always actually in the top 10 of the power rankings, greatly helping Sensei to get the win. So just a question as a player, perhaps as your playing style, I don't know if it differs much, but what is your preferred position to play as a player? So you have the starter, you have the first counter pick, maybe the second counter pick. I don't know if you have a third counter pick or an equalizing pair where you try to get as many wins as possible. And then you lastly have the anchor, the one that fights last. So what is your preferred position from all of these?
I think my team Sensei and including is very good at counting decks. So I'm not I think I'm not good as a starter, but I'm very good at counting some decks. So that's my role.
Yeah, and that is particularly one of the roles that can have that straight potential, especially if it is the second counter pick sent in. Because by that point, well, if you are in a winning position already, they're not gonna have as many decks to counter you, and well, you can take advantage of that, and that's certainly apparent because you did end up placing top 10 within this power ranking and greatly helping Sensei to this amazing 7-3 finish that granted you a spot in the playoffs. So congratulations on that, my turn.
Thank you, Heiji. I'm very glad to be here with you.
Thank you as well. Same goes for me as well. Sensei, obviously, we had you guys a couple of times on your journey towards the latter end of the groups, it was a little scary, but you ended up making it out, and we're all excited to see, as staff and as viewers and even players, that are eager to watch this amazing match that will be Sensei versus Uchiha's. Currently, we don't have many details on the casters, but let's take a look at some of the stats for these two teams. So, very close in the placing, we have 8th and 9th, both also with a very close record, only one RD making the difference. But that is where the similarities end. We have the best teamwork placing for you guys being top 12 of last season, where it also was your first season, and making playoffs back to back. It's certainly very, very good for you, and it's quite the minimum, you could say, that we could expect from you. Always such a reliable team to get 6 and 4 at the minimum and qualify for playoffs. For Uchiha's, though, their last season performance wasn't the best. It was a 5 and 5. I believe they did go into the groups being 4 and 3. No past encounter, but for the player to watch, obviously it's you for Sensei due to the highest wins. And well, on the other side, there is the Titan known as Urushihara, the best performing player within Teamworks this season, and he's also a rookie. It is his first season playing, and he has stopped the. Yeah, he's a rookie. Like his first
I didn't
season.
Know that. He's a very good player. Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm sure he's going to win a couple of awards at the end of the season due to this performance. He already won, in fact, Player of the Month for the first 4 weeks.
He showed a very good performance in this season, and we should be careful to count him.
Yeah, exactly. That's where the discussion was leading up to. So Uchiha's very good opponent, very close to you, and in record. And well, it's okay if you don't reveal much information, because this is important information. But
Of course, yeah.
What do you think about Uchiha's as a team?
Uchiha's, I think, they like blue eyes, and they tend to counter Harpies with blue eyes, with white Spirit Dragon. So we are planning to prepare versus it.
All right, yeah, that sounds good. I do agree with you. I have seen a lot more blue eyes from Uchiha's in recent times, and well, it worked out to pretty good extent for them. So it's going to be a very interesting match nonetheless. All of these 4 matches within the playoffs are going to be very interesting, and sadly I didn't prepare the playoffs bracket graphic, but in a later segment we will be taking a look at those playoffs and predictions for each of the players. So before closing out, my turn, do you have any shoutouts that you would like to make now?
We will do our best to win versus Uchiha's, and I hope to do better than the last season. I want to go more and more higher.
That's certainly nice to hear. So thank you once again, my turn, for joining in, and I hope you had a good time.
Thank you, Heiji.
And yeah, with that, we will see you in the next segment.